It is believed to be the school that inspired the books of Harry Potter. And it is run by a group of Benedictine monks.
You cannot go round the place wearing this clobber and have them forget that you're a monk and think that you're just a lad like them.
But how does a community of monks teach a bunch of teenage boys?
Do you know how much sleep she got last night? Not a minute. Why? Because she was mopping up your vomit.
And how will they cope with the arrival of girls?
No, you can't kiss me.
Why not?
You can't kiss me because you can't.
We think it is right that we should be inviting them to that very old-fashioned word, chastity.
For the first time in their history, the monks let the cameras into Ampleforth. It's Sunday morning, and the whole school is at prayer. The 540 pupils receive a Catholic education, and they are taught by 60 lay staff and a group of Benedictine monks.
Like my friends, when I first went to, they were all like, they're freaks. So what are they going to do? You see a monk as somebody who lives in a cell and doesn't really come out only to pray and stuff. And we see here that they get involved with kind of sports, academic. They teach, they do everything here like a normal person.
Ampleforth may be a monastery, but it is also a working school where monks must be teachers and teenagers are still teenagers. The end of school mass is the chance for some students to sneak off for a cigarette. But anyone caught smoking faces an immediate £10 fine, and a teacher is coming up the drive.
How are you? Oh, good morning.
Miss Berry trusts her to be coming down. We're all running out.
Why after Mass? Is that a tradition or any time you get a chance, really? Or...
I think everyone just goes for one after Mass.
Paying people that don't smoke go as well, because all the people that smoke goes, which is why I go.
Yeah, I don't smoke.
Well, we should make this clear now. So you don't smoke?
I don't smoke, no.
I don't smoke.
Right, well, we've already seen you smoking on camera, so it's slightly different.
Good schools involve a lot of walking along knife edges and balancing freedom and responsibility. And I'm sure we don't always get it right, and certainly the young don't always get it right.
Ampleforth was founded by the monks of St Benedict 200 years ago. It lies in a valley on the edge of the North Yorkshire moors, 23 miles from the nearest large town.
Valley fever. I get it myself sort of about once a week, because here we are in this beautiful, beautiful countryside, but it is a valley you can't see for miles and miles and miles, and it is easy to forget that there's a whole world out there.
In their plain habits, the image the monks portray is one of strict uniformity. But like many things at Ampleforth, appearances can be deceptive. When it comes to their pupils, the monks permit a surprising amount of self-expression. School dress at Ampleforth is like no other public school.
This is my very old paint tie, which I haven't changed for a while. This is my dad's jacket with a rip. My brother's old trousers, and some very old Converse with some holes in it.
These are Pierre Cardin.
But it's raining.
Yeah, it's still part of our image, just to wear these shades.
David Beckham's haircut from the World Cup. My dad's old dinner jacket from when he was 18.
The dress code has been something of a battlefield. I'm not satisfied with the way in which a number of our students approach it.
Sports jacket, the very stylish ripped trousers, shoes to die for, talking shoes, and the Stetson cowboy hat.
But is it the only measure by which you should judge a child? Absolutely not.
Most students board at a cost of £18,000 a year. Life revolves around the 9 boarding houses, of which 4 are run by monks, and every monk runs his house in his own distinctive style.
Godzilla finishes at 10:35. 10:35, that's an hour.
So that's 10.
So there's adverts.
So come on, we've got to be in...
So it's still finished at 10:35, that's far too late. Sorry,
so we've got to be in by 11.
Come on,
So please.
You watch so many films.
So Godzilla's a classic.
Oh, right, that's ridiculous.
So we get halfway through everything.
Father Chad is the assistant housemaster at St Cuthbert's. A former hospital manager, he became a monk 10 years ago.
What happens is they turn the lights out so that they can scurry between each other's rooms without you seeing. So it's a bit like a rabbit warren where they'll pop their heads out and then as soon as they see you, they'll nip back in. I'm not convinced about this argument that monks are completely abnormal. I think if you spent time in the monastery, yes, you would be amazed by some of the behaviour. But I think also any human community learns all sorts of lessons about forgiveness and tolerance and patience. And those lessons, I think, are needed in today's world by the people who come to be educated here. Ah, we have a third member. Out from under the desk, please. Who is it? Are you decent? Stan? That's ridiculous. You're not even on this corridor. Come on, out. You've been busted. Anyone else? Yes. Oh, Steph! Out you come. Come on. It's always the small ones. Come on. Anyone else behind there?
No, there's no one else.
Are you sure?
It's my golf clubs.
Right. I'm far too soft on them, really. Which way did he run? In there. Oh, that's the right room. Tarnowski, you toe rag.
I was asleep, sir. I was sleepwalking.
Oh, that's absolute rubbish. Now, come on. It's not fair on the others, OK?
Okay, sir.
The boys put me onto it, actually, to be truthful. Yes, I like it. I should be ashamed to say it, but yes, I think I like it very much.
What is it? I mean, is it this one here? I don't think it might be, is it?
Yeah, it's Transformation America. Yeah, that's the one. Yes, yes.
Well, he's quite different, you know. He listens to trance and he smokes. And I don't know, he really likes New York. He goes over there quite a lot. And
what does he do in New York?
I think he's got quite. We're not too sure.
Father James was a teacher before he joined the monastery 18 years ago.
I thought monks weren't supposed to have any vices.
That reminds me of the story of the Jesuit. It had to be a Jesuit who went to his confessor to ask whether it would be okay if he smoked whilst he prayed. And his confessor said, well, no, certainly not, that's completely wrong. So the Jesuit thought, well, in that case, is it okay if I pray whilst I smoke? And that's really the more Benedictine philosophy.
Father James's policy when it comes to posters in our sixth form rooms, well...
it's probably the more breast the better, really, I should think, yeah.
He's not too bad at the posters.
No, it's fine.
He's good at the posters.
Some of the other monks are slightly stricter.
I mean, quite honestly, as long as there's nothing really offensive, you know, anything that would get somebody's grandmother seriously upset if they saw it, I mean, for heaven's sake, you know, okay, there are girls in the school now. I suppose that might be an argument for saying, well, look, now there are real girls around, you don't need all these pictures, do you? But of course, it's not the same thing. It doesn't work like that.
Life is very different at St Bede's.
You lot again, talking after lights out, after 11:15? Oh, what are we going to do with you? Okay, well, you better go and stand up against the bookcase.
Sure.
Like you might remember that one, Malcolm, from last night. You spread out, and Malcolm, you can keep still this time, not wander around. But it's a little bit like being a father of a family, trying to bring the boys up to be kind and conscientious in their work, also secure.
Father William was himself a pupil at Ampleforth and returned to become a monk after university.
11:45. Oh, sorry, sir.
Look, I'm coming back in about 2 minutes. Make sure everybody's in bed.
Okay, sorry,
and
sir.
the litter on the floor as well. Could somebody get that?
Yes, sir.
Glamour posters of girls are not permitted at St Bede's.
Well, he confiscated my photos when I was like 15.
And sent them to
he sent them to my parents. No, seriously, like he put them in like an envelope and sent them off.
If a woman is putting on an erotic pose for money, as so often in these girly pictures, I think that is, in my opinion, that is inappropriate.
You know, he sort of sees in a different light. Probably because he's a monk, though. You know, he's not really used to seeing those kind of things. He's grown up in like a different era, really.
The really natural thing is for one's sexuality to be used for what it was made for.
Which is?
Procreation and love between a married couple.
But the monks soon discover that keeping apart the sexes is easier said than done.
Because the original idea was to start.
After 2 centuries as a boys-only school, Ampleforth has decided to take girls.
Push it ahead of her, that's good, so she can't have it.
This year, the school has opened a new house for 38 girl boarders.
It still feels like it's a holiday and that I'm going to go home in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It hasn't really sunk in yet that I'm out here for another 2 years.
I know, yeah. And also the fact that you can't, at the end of the day, you can't sort of just go home. You have to like go and do prep and...
It's sort of slightly surreal, having people dressed in cloaks
running
running around.
When the monks go down to teach the boys rugby, I think it's really funny because you're used to seeing them in their long black outfits and then they're in shorts and they're running around.
At St Aidan's, boys are only allowed in the common room, well away from the bedrooms upstairs.
Right, slight oversight that we don't have any net curtains at the moment, but there will be some very soon, I hope, and that will stop the girls looking at the boys and the boys looking at the girls.
Of course, our question immediately was, why can't we have net curtains then? Because it is a misconception that boys are always trying to look at the girls, whereas I tend to think the girls spend more time looking at us.
Unfortunately, I have a tree in the way, so I can't spy on them, which is it is a bit unfair, actually, considering everybody else in the house has a perfectly great view.
I mean, how much? They don't actually see that much, but this is just so that we're not in any danger, as it were.
For girls and boys, the best time to meet is on Saturdays, when the school gives sixth formers permission to go to the village pubs.
2 monitors, myself and Hannah today. We'll go down to the village pubs and just going to make sure everything's in good order and going to clear everyone out at 2:30.
Saturday is the day where we can actually get out of the campus and go nuts, because we're actually allowed to go to the pub and it's meant to be like 2 pints in the meal. But the chances are when you get 17, 18-year-olds in like 2 local pubs in the village, you're not going to have 2 pints in the meal. It's a question of like 8 pints and like a pack of crisps or something, which is what happens. And it's like the time where you can just get out of school together and just, you know, pretend as if you're kind of out somewhere else.
Some pupils do stick to the rules of 2 pints or 3 glasses of wine with a meal, but not many seem to while we were filming. To an outsider, it may seem strange that a school gives students permission from the age of 16 to go drinking in the afternoon.
Wow! I think certainly they've got to be careful because the pub permission is constantly under review and we're not happy about this. On the other hand, we've got to realise that we've got 550 individual people in the middle of the countryside, and it's not just that they want to be drinking alcohol, but they want to be doing it in a place other than the place they spend all day and every day, you know, every waking moment, just getting out into and seeing other people.
The relative freedom of Saturdays gives couples the chance to explore the school grounds.
Should we just do one quick kiss?
No.
Why not?
No, it's tempting, that
It is, isn't it?
Giles and Charlotte have been going out for a year.
Well, on a free afternoon, when the weather's like this, there's just nowhere else to go. I mean, at least here we're sheltered, we've got a bit of privacy, and for 2.5 hours we've got really.
Got free. It's just, yeah, just to get away.
Well, there are some quite useful sheds and some quite useful...
You know, you just go to a place that's quite remote, and then, you know...
We've got the whole valley,
just
so...
as long as you don't go,
you know,
find it along sort of around the houses holding hands sort of thing, because that's just stupid.
School policy is, I think, any touching of a girl, sort of even holding hands, hugging...
Piggyback.
Anything is... It counts as a public display of affection.
And I reckon the first time you were caught, you'd possibly be...
Just warned, maybe.
Warned. Second time, internal suspension. Third time, suspension. Fourth time, expulsion. It would go along those lines, no doubt. With it being a Catholic school, they're really, really strict.
I'd be very surprised if affections did not rise between some of our young, as they do anywhere. They are young, though, and I think they must be encouraged to see that to have too exclusive a relationship at this stage of their lives would be very unwise.
Last year I was going out with a guy for the whole year, and I was in his room, and his housemaster walked in who was a monk. And that wasn't very good.
My incident with a monk. I think we've all had quite a few incidents with monks. I got caught by a monk as well.
Last year we stumbled across an old boarding house. We sort of went in there for a while.
Old Cuthbert's, wasn't it?
Yeah, but
And what happened?
Father Prior walked in one day, just casually strolled in, and there we were, and we had no explanation as to why we were in there. So
what were
luckily,
you doing at the time when they walked in?
Well,
we were smoking.
Yeah, so it was okay, fully clothed, so it was okay.
They should not be alone together. It doesn't stop them seeing each other. It doesn't stop them talking to each other in a room where other people are. These are children of 16 and 17. They are very vulnerable. And the self-confidence that they sometimes exude can cloak a vulnerability. And it goes beyond question that we think it is right that we should be inviting them to that very old-fashioned word, chastity.
Saturdays is also rugby day, and that means everyone has to be out at the pub by 2:30.
Hey guys, 5 minutes. Got rugby.
In charge of official support is George DL.
George, you're in charge of support and you're not down there.
No, I've got a taxi in about 5 minutes, so I'll be there for these guys.
Before kick-off.
We're making Newcastle come out first, yeah, and we're going to get a complete silence on the pitch, yeah. And as soon as like the Shat boys come out in the red and black, yeah, we're going to get the drums and the flares. Like,
How's Father Leo going to take to the drumming and the noise and all that?
Well, he was really supportive, actually, of the whole thing. I don't know about the drumming. I mean, I'll probably be told to quit after like 10 seconds winning it, but
just go for it for the first
Yeah, but essentially what I'm trying to do is like promote it. I'm not trying to, you know, piss anyone off.
And he's always down there to watch the rugby anyway, so he's quite keen that there's good support.
I can't wait, actually.
Unfortunately, George may have misread his headmaster.
They can shout like anything, but we don't have musical instruments down, I'm afraid. Nor drums. That trumpet shouldn't be there either. That didn't happen before you were here.
Yeah, I've got to start the support. I'm like the supporting club. But I'm a little bit late. How long ago did they kick off? Like 5 minutes ago, yeah? So I wasn't told by anyone about this.
And I will see you in your suit at 5 o'clock.
So when do you want me to see me at 5 o'clock? In your room?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I wanted just to pump the players up, you know, bring the beat into it, and he just took it in a really bad way. The fact is, I didn't even hit it when I was down here, I hit it when I was up there. When we were walking down, you know, and it's just like...
I think it's pretty funny things, it's not really fair on the other side.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm meant to be going out tonight, and he's trying to make me dress up. My suit is in the village now, at my friend's house. You know?
In fact, George is supposed to be going out with his girlfriend and her family that evening. Facing a crisis, George asks the head boy to plead his case with Father Leo.
It's good to see quite vocal support there, isn't there? Yeah, I think we might have to organise some kind of monitor stopping that kind of at half-time. So.
George tries an apology.
Wasn't meant to happen.
Sorry, I mean, I was told...
The vision of Nick was shouting and so on.
Yeah.
The instruments intimidate.
I understand totally. So I'm going to be here, just all the right chants will come out, don't worry. Is that okay then?
Why have you decided not to take it any further with George or punish him?
Well, I think that his intentions were for the best. In terms of...
He goes like, it's all right, just don't do it again. You know, it projects a bad atmosphere around Ampleforth, you know. And he said, just don't bring it again and I'll forgive you just this once. And I think, hey, cheers.
Watching the monks teach and socialise with the boys, it is easy to forget that they are committed to a completely different way of life, ruled by vows of obedience to St. Benedict and committed to a life of celibacy and prayer. The monastery part of Ampleforth is closed to the outside world, but the monks allow us a rare glimpse of life inside the monastery walls. After a trial period as a novice, the monk joins the monastery for life and takes a vow of obedience to the abbot.
Well, St. Benedict says in his rule that the abbot holds the place of Christ in the monastery. So our obedience to the abbot is tantamount to obedience to Christ. You give up your, I was going to say freedom, but that might be misinterpreted. You give up your geographical freedom in the sense that you're physically restricted to a particular enclosure of the monastery.
I mean, I suppose one of the big questions for me was celibacy, and what's involved in a life of celibacy. I didn't exactly have massive wealth. My mini metro was towed away for 80 quid, so I didn't exactly have yachts to get rid of.
Devote yourselves to prayer, keeping alert in it with thanksgiving. At the same time, pray for us as well, that God will open to us a door.
The monks live according to the rule of St. Benedict, set down 1500 years ago. They eat together in silence and pray together 5 times a day. But with their commitments to the monastery, where does that leave their responsibility to the school and to the pupils?
If there's a boy in the house who needs help, whatever, with a problem, whatever it may be, or just simply wants something, you've got to deal with him first. However, my feeling is that if I can do anything right, I need the influence of the Holy Spirit. I don't feel that I could do it on my own. So the monastic thing, if you like, has got to have top priority.
Benedict Domini nos et hic dera tua, quae de tua lagitatis sumus sumpturi, et concedi utilis salubritu nutriti, tibidebitum obsequium prostare valeamus. Amen. In the name of the Father.
Every house celebrates the feast day of its patron saint, and that really does mean a giant feast for the whole house and invited guests.
As a Benedictine monk, you know how to put on a party. You see what I mean? Is that part
I think St. Benedict did. I think our Lord did. So we try to, that's one of the many traditions that we try to follow.
At boarding school, nights can be long if it's not your feast day. After 9:30, students must stay in their houses and most abide by the rules. But at St. Bede's, Bruno and Jules are popping out for a secret cigarette on the roof.
Just a fog light.
In fact, the roof of St. Bede's is popular with a number of boys, but there's always a risk of getting caught.
I caught them smoking on the roof and I fined them.
How much did you find them?
It was a £25 fine.
Bruno and Jules have been caught red-handed, but they're not happy about receiving a £25 fine for smoking indoors instead of a £10 fine for smoking outside.
So, we don't understand why, if we were outside and it was concrete and it was wet, how it should be £25. And also I've got no way of paying that for a long time because I won't get £25.
Well, the answer to your first point is that it's on the building, it's on the premises.
I know, sir, but how could it possibly burn down?
Well, that's the rule, Julian.
It's like behind the chapel, that's a £10 fine.
Yeah.
When people go there.
And that's probably
that's just as bad.
That's more dangerous because, you know, grass can burn, whereas up there it's wet and, you know, it's concrete.
It's just been raining.
Well, you went out of the building, you were in the building, you went out of the window, and you're still on the roof of the building.
Yeah, but so we closed all the windows, etc.
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm treating it as a £25 fine. Judging from the little bit of feedback I get sometimes from time to time, I'm probably on the stricter side.
But you're happy with that? You think it works?
Well, it's where I believe I think it's the right level of strictness.
Back at St Wilfrid's, the port has arrived for sixth formers and invited guests.
We're all going now.
Right,
so
well, I've just been given this, so I can't come for 2 minutes.
Okay, well, we'll be up.
These days it is rare for the boys to join the monastery after leaving Ampleforth, but they seem to respect the path the monks have chosen.
They're not going out Friday nights, whatever, to the pub, and it's just a different side to life to understand that there are these people who have devoted themselves.
But don't you want a housemaster or a teacher who lives in the real world?
Yeah, perhaps, but then I think what most the monks here have done are much braver decisions than what a lot of people out in the real world make.
Unfortunately, in the real world, teenagers misbehave and teachers have to punish them.
It's ruined. At the moment I'm sitting here tempted never to have another one.
The Feast of St Wilfrid was declared a success by Father Leo, but daybreak brings reports of serious misdemeanours.
I found one upstairs lying on the floor of his bedroom with his housematron, Mrs. Mangles, and so he was brought up to the infirmary. When I got here, I found that there was already another boy that had mysteriously appeared from somewhere or other, and I went back to the house to retrieve a third boy. Matron Morris, my deputy, who was on that night, didn't go to bed that night. She just spent the night clearing up vomit, sort of thing.
Do you know how much sleep she got last night? Have a guess. Not a minute. Why? Because she was mopping up your vomit. Although the punch went brilliantly well, it's ruined. At the moment I'm sitting here tempted never to have another one. And I mean that. How many glasses of wine did you actually have at dinner last night?
Dinner, sir.
Well, think!
10.
10! How much work did you do to prepare for the thing?
None.
And so, at the end of the most difficult evening possible for the kitchen staff, you have them cleaning up your puke? Very noble. Charlie, as a matter of interest, how much did you have at the meal?
At the meal, 5 or 6 glasses.
How did you manage to get into that state that I found you in outside last night? What was it? Port?
It might have been, yes, sir, the port.
How many glasses of port do you think you had?
4.
I'm
gating you for 2 weekends with triple Saturday detention.
That's 7 hours sitting in a classroom on a Saturday and no going to the village for 2 weeks.
Right, you better go now then.
I mean, do you think, in retrospect, it was inadvisable to give him alcohol at all?
I'm not too sure about that. I mean, clearly at the moment I'd like to declare the whole place dry, but I think it's possibly just the heat of the moment.
I think it was pretty fair, actually. I think the punishment I got was reasonably light. I was expecting, I don't know, so I think suspension was in my eye somewhere.
I think there's going to have to be, in my mind, a major rethink about the format of the whole thing. I mean, I'm not having this happening again. I can't. I've got a responsibility to these boys.
Ampleforth welcomes students of all abilities and does not take them based solely on an entrance exam. The Benedictines strongly believe that a child's education is more than just about passing exams.
I think that unless we have a holistic view of education, of the body, the mind and the spirit, a view to which we do not pay just lip service, but which is really lived out in the whole style of life that we ask of our students and of ourselves, then education is not what it should be. It is a piece of technical equipment with all the limitations of a piece of technical equipment. It doesn't, in the end, fit a whole human life.
Off it goes.
These days, lay staff carry out most of the teaching.
What I want to focus on now is this idea that Roosevelt had too much power, that he abused his power.
Not all the teachers are Catholic, but they seem to accept the monks as employers.
You're not always part of the decision-making processes, but you can accept that if you realise you're working for the family business, and it's some of the big decisions are not necessarily yours to make.
Economic success.
Where they're different, of course, is that their vocation is different. Your vocation, my vocation in life, is to be a father, family man. Their vocation is to seek God in community. So they just think slightly differently to the way we think. And because they think slightly differently to the way we think, they make us think slightly differently.
The monks may have dedicated their lives to prayer, but they still teach and get involved in some surprising areas.
If you've been having sex in this country, there's a list of common diseases which can be looked for. They're going to ask you something about your sexual behaviour, what you do. Don't be surprised by that, because they've got to look in the right place for possible infections. No point in looking at your penis if in fact your interest is in oral sex and you've come because your sexual partner has said that he or she has an infection. You know, you may find this kind of appearance, or you may get that kind of appearance as a similar organism, or this.
Oh,
Settle down, Mr. Freeland.
If you have sex with a girl who's got it, do you always get it yourself?
That's a very interesting question, and it's difficult to be absolutely sure about that, because when I come to talk about girls, you're going to discover that girls have a much higher incidence of lack of symptoms, and that will perhaps tell you that it can be difficult to be absolutely sure exactly how many people get infected. But you've got a good chance if she has gonococci in her vagina. Okay? I could stand at the front and say, sex is not good news for you. And it would have absolutely no impact at all, really, because even though I doctored before I entered the monastery, I'm a monk, therefore, almost by definition, I shouldn't know too much about this anyway. So I think you should go back to the facts, the data, and let them make their own judgments, which they will do anyway. They'll make their own judgment. whether you like it or not.
History throws up its own challenges. Queen Elizabeth I had monks executed. Indeed, the Benedictines only felt safe to return from exile 200 years ago. But that doesn't stop a present monk from teaching Elizabethan history.
Well, I have to be careful, I suppose, because a lot of the books still have this sense of the Catholic Church being doomed, and that, you know, this Protestantism was just an inevitably good thing that was sweeping along. So I think as long as I can show them that there are two sides to the argument, and I have to slightly remind myself that I've got to present the other side as well.
When it comes to discipline, St. Benedict wrote, "The good of all concerned may prompt us to a little strictness in order to amend faults and safeguard love." At St. Bede's, Borger is about to be sent on the famous Gilling run.
Now, before we go any further, I just want to make sure you remember why you're on this run.
Yep.
Remember I sent you on a run on Wednesday?
Yes.
Because you missed games?
Yep.
And I made sure that you had a pen.
Yes.
We made sure that it worked.
Yes.
And you came back and told me that the pen didn't work by the time you got there.
No, and I left the pen in the box.
And I'm not accepting that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's why you're going on a run this afternoon.
Yes.
Okay, now could you just make sure that you just sign it as you would sign it on the list?
Borger has just 45 minutes to make it to Gilling and back, or he may have to run it again.
He missed games on Wednesday afternoon of last week. So I sent him on a run myself there and then. He returned out of breath and with some mud on his knees and said, well, I did the run, but when I got there the pen wasn't working. Well, you know, I wasn't born yesterday, and I suppose it was worth a try from his point of view, but, you know, so I'm making him do the run again. I suppose it's one of the more severe punishments that a housemaster would have to give out from time to time.
The Gilling run is across the valley to the prep school in Gilling and back, in all a 3-mile round trip. The run is a useful weapon in a housemaster's armoury, and one monk isn't beyond a little embellishment when describing it to first-year boys.
There's a true story about the Gilling run, which is actually pretty scary. It happened about 7 or 8 years ago, and a boy from this house had been sent on one. And he'd been to Gilling, and he was coming back, and he was already past the T-junction, and it was very thick fog. And so it would have been about 7 o'clock in the morning, just starting to get light. And all of a sudden, this figure appeared, a monk, with his hood up, just sort of loomed out of the darkness and stood there and didn't move a muscle. And the boy was absolutely freaked, as you can imagine, totally terrified. But there were no monks down there at the time. Not a single monk from the monastery was down there. Who this person was, or what this person was, nobody to this day has actually found out.
Tell me you think about that.
Very scary. Mean. That would just make me...
Borger reaches the prep school without seeing a ghost, and he signs himself in.
Won't work, see? Look, it's because the board is soaking wet.
So it didn't work last time?
No, it worked. It worked like this.
In fact, Borger is running out of time, but never underestimate the ingenuity of a schoolboy. First, he manages to lose the camera crew, and then we come across this. Borger has managed to hitch a lift in a van. 2 minutes and a van ride later, and Borger is back on track.
They're the Australians from Gilling, and they offered me a lift. So I wasn't going to say no. Yeah. Made it back in time.
Just in time.
Completely now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
With Felix.
St. Bede's is one of the few houses in Ampleforth that is still to be modernised. At times, the old dormitories and strict regime of Father William makes it feel part of a bygone age.
Johnny.
So may I get my speakers back, please?
Oh, yes, right. Your speakers. I seem to have got quite a collection of speakers. These are your two up here.
Yeah.
Has it been 48 hours? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. And it was 48 hours. Come back tomorrow.
Well, it must have been about 12 o'clock. He has this policy where if he can hear your music outside your room, he confiscates the speakers for 48 hours. So I was trying to get them back, but he's not having any of it.
So that was a great prize, getting Johnny's speakers. Head of school. Yeah, but yes, he was playing music too loud. And he did have 1 or 2 warnings, actually, about it.
Well, so, I've taken, like, this is everything from it. That's, like, the main unit. You know, that's what the speaker's going to.
Okay, let's put it down there. So, Giles, aren't you supposed to be on duty?
Yeah, I am.
Why are the lights are still on the ground floor?
Well,
it's gone 10:30. Could you get on with it?
10:30? I thought it was 1:45.
No. Ground floor lights go at 10:30.
Oh, I didn't know.
And everybody should be upstairs by 10:30.
Okay.
Now in the 6th form, George has grown used to life under Father William.
And I couldn't think of anything worse than looking after 60 boys, 60 adolescents, you know. Like, it's to be a nightmare.
Do you not want to shoot for your bed?
What?
Do you not want to shoot for your bed?
Yeah. But the fact that he uses these kind of things in a strict way, I mean, people would probably agree that you kind of rebel more under the strict regime, you know.
With new speakers found, it seems rebellion is in the air at St Bede's. Winter at Ampleforth brings preparations for end-of-term concerts and house festivities.
See you from the hedge back, just going through the hedge back now.
December is also the middle of the hunting season, and up on the moors, Bruno and Jules are out beagling.
How are you feeling, Joe? What do you say to people who say schoolboys shouldn't be going out following hunts? Well, I say, why? And they don't usually give me a very good answer. I say it's part of their education. Young people should be allowed to experience many things in order to form an opinion. That's what education's about, isn't it?
Ampleforth has some strange traditions, but the students seem to be proud of its distinctive approach to education.
It brings you up quite well, as in, you know, you're not brought up, you know, just doing stupid things. You know what's right, what's wrong.
You make much closer friends as well, because you're always around with them and you're living with them 7 days a week. So it's almost as if I'm like brothers and sisters with them. Yeah.
Alright, let's go find the hair.
Yeah.
The pop band, the Trevs, have been given permission to perform a gig by Father Leo.
This is going to be quite embarrassing, actually, because it's the first time, and also I don't know the lyrics. He doesn't know the bass.
It's not that bit, it's like... Wait, what is it?
The Trevs aren't the only ones who are worried about the sound.
It is a very difficult area, and especially if you don't know much about it, because you don't find it attractive. But there is music which has a preoccupation with Satanism. These are not good things.
There are pop groups that rock for Jesus. I mean, they are the sort of...
Yes, of course. And so the rhythm and so on in itself is as it were neutral.
There is one monk, though, who is very keen to be a bouncer on the night.
It's still music. I mean, you know, no matter what some people may say, it may be very, very loud and raucous and discordant, but it's skillfully done. No, I personally am delighted that there's a rock concert here, as long as the people who are in the audience realise that they're not at some sort of rave in the middle of nowhere.
How's it going? Well, I think we're on task.
At St Bede's, Father William is cooking a dinner for his 6th form monitors.
Before I joined the monastery, I shared a house with 4 other chaps, and we used to take it in turns to cook. And at the end of the first year, there seemed to be a unanimous opinion that I was the worst cook in the house. Put enough water in there? Probably not. Do you think I should have more? Do you think I should cover the potatoes?
You might want to, yeah, maybe just...
Father William spent nearly 4 hours preparing the dinner for the boys, but despite his dedication, the boys don't always appreciate the way he runs St Bede's.
He is really well intentioned, but I just think sometimes his the way he carries things out is slightly misled.
It can be argued that if one of the monks was to come straight out of school and then just kind of go back into the valley just as one of the kind of members of the monastic community, well then they're going to be out of touch with the real world.
You were at the prep school, then at Ampleforth, and then you were away for a few years, but you came back to be a monk. I mean, could you not have waited a few more years, have a bit more of a, what did you say, real-life experience before becoming a monk?
Well, I could have done, and I think the fact that I went away to university for 3 years was postponing the getting on with my vocation as a monk. And I thought that perhaps 3 years at university, and I came to the realization that that was enough. I've postponed enough, and really the wisest thing is to get on with what God wants me to do.
There's obviously a lot to be said actually for kind of the time and effort that he does put in, and I mean, kind of full credit to him for that. But I mean, I think that sometimes the boys would just like to see kind of energy used in a kind of more productive way. Sometimes it can be rather kind of pointless, kind of enforcing petty rules and things.
Do you know what your nickname is?
Of course I do.
What is it? Do you know? I mean, when it says that it's Evil Billy, does that hurt you or not?
Yes, it does a little bit. Yes, yeah. You get all sorts of. I mean, as a housemaster, you get all sorts of knocks and kicks. But at the end of the day, I think they need a housemaster who's an authority figure.
Term ends with the Messiah concert to celebrate the 200th anniversary of the founding of Ampleforth. The monastic education that Ampleforth provides has long been popular with traditional Catholic families, but can it feel relevant to new families in a modern, secular age?
I think you can become obsessed by that question, and if you make relevance the sole, the driving criterion, then I think it's very easy to get led astray, because relevant to which aspect of the outside world? It's not as though there's an obvious world out there which has got all its ideas and it's got its act together, and we're just not in tune with that.
I think the worst thing we could do is just throw our hands up in despair and say, oh, it's all going to crumble away, we might as well stop and dig turnips all day long. Which is no reflection at all on the monasteries that do earn their living by digging turnips. That's fine, but I don't think it's for us.
The monks believe they can adapt to a changing world because of the lessons of tolerance they have learnt within their own community. A tolerance that allows them to welcome such different monks to Ampleforth, with such different views of the world.
That was very, very nice. Good. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
What a night.
Very good evening so far.
So when are you going to give up?
I remember a couple of boys telling me once, they said, sir, don't even think about giving up during term, because if you do, you'll be even more unlivable with than you are already. So I took that as a severe warning.